Welcome to a bonus episode of our Sustainable Packaging Summit virtual panel series. Usually you'll need to register on the Packaging Europe website to access these sessions, but today we're broadcasting unrestricted on LinkedIn. We're presenting today's panel in collaboration with CFlex, the cross-value chain initiative working to build a circular economy in flexibles across Europe. And in this context, we're focusing on latest developments on extended producer responsibility. That's an enabling mechanism for delivering circular materials. And we'll be thinking about the challenges and opportunities involved in EPR and the contrasts between present conditions across different countries in Europe. I'm delighted to be joined by 6 experts who can help us guide through this topic today. They are Jochen Hertlein, who's Packaging Sustainability Lead at Nestlé, Mike Jefferson, who's a consultant at CFlex, Joachim Quoden, Managing Director of EXPRA, which represents EPR schemes across, I believe, 24 countries now. Also, we have 3 speakers who've got specialist knowledge of 3 domestic European markets. First of all, Amanda Fuso-Narini, who is Head of International Affairs at CONAI, that's the Italian EPR. Jens Niesmann, Managing Director of Reclai, a German EPR. And last but not least, Rolf van Sprang, Senior Expert for Sustainability, Sustainable Packaging at KIDV, that's the Netherlands Institute for Sustainable Packaging, which looks very closely at EPR issues in Netherlands and beyond. So we have a lot to get through in the next hour, but we will try to answer audience questions if we manage to get there in time. So please share any questions that you have in the LinkedIn comments section. So, Mike, let's start with you. I'd like to set the scene in terms of CFlex's view of EPR. Could you tell us about the CFlex EPR criteria for circularity, and what do you see as the most important aspects to achieve from your perspective?
Yes, of course. The criteria for circularity was something that CFlex have developed along with our stakeholders, and it's really a set of criteria looking at how we feel that EPR can best support flexible packaging in terms of our objective of making it all circular. And the criteria itself really builds on some work done by the Consumer Goods Forum, but obviously we're specifically looking at flexible packaging, and it's more granular, and it looks at 4 different areas. So it looks at operational aspects of the supply chain, so in terms of collection, in terms of sorting, in terms of recycling. It looks at financial considerations, it looks at communication, and it also looks at governance. And just a little background, if I may, in terms of why we started looking at this. CFlex for several years have been looking and doing lots of research on flexible packaging, recycling and circularity. So looking at business case scenarios, looking at design for recycling, looking at how best to grade and sort flexible films so that they feed best into the recyclers to produce the right quality recycler that we need to put into end market applications. And after that research, when we started looking at how to implement those findings, it became clear that EPR was at the center of everything and was a key enabler for us. So, for example, design for recycling fitted very well with eco-modulation within EPR. The design, how best to sort material fitted well with the fact that many EPR schemes control or pay for the collection and the sorting of the packaging based on the outputs and our specifications for output centers. So there were a lot of synergies. In terms of the most important elements, I suspect you're not going to let me get away with all as an answer. But what I would say is I think the answer is very much country specific, which is why we're setting up country specific teams, because we have some countries in the EU+3 who yet don't collect flexible packaging, and we've got others that have been collecting it for nearly 30 years. So what's most important varies. But if I say to you that over 70% of the criteria under operational and financial I think some of the key areas areas are within those categories in terms of how best to sort the material and how EPR schemes can support in terms of encouraging investment, in terms of financial security in the supply chain.
Thanks very much, Mike, for that good overview to start off with. And you've said that it's very country specific, and obviously EPR schemes are run within domestic markets individually. So maybe it's interesting to, right at the start, get some understanding of the contrasting circumstances across different countries in Europe. So I'd like to bring in Amanda, Jens, and Rolf to share their perspectives from Italy, Germany, and Netherlands, respectively. Maybe we could start with Amanda. Could you maybe briefly describe the current status of flexible packaging collection, sorting, and recycling in your country? What is and isn't currently collected? How is flexible packaging typically sorted and recycled, and what end users? And where do you see the biggest differences between the current state of play in Italy and the CFlex criteria for circularity that Mike's just talked about?
Yes, thanks a lot, Tim, and thanks, Mike, for introducing the CFlex project, which is a project for CNAIA has been invited to be the one of the member of the advisory committee of such project. So I'm happy to be one of the mentioned country from Mike that has introduced separate collection of flexible packages since many years. The CNAIA system has been set up in 1997, so really on the first implementation phase of the packaging waste directive. And exactly 5 years after, so after our main tool of the separate collection, which is the framework national agreement with the municipality, it's a really big framework agreement that define the quality specification and all the criteria requirement has been to achieve by local authority to collect at source the collection, so including flexible science, so started really into 2022. So that is the main tool that enable the EPR system in Italy to collect separately flexible packaging. I am talking to all flexible packaging. CNAIA manage all packaging placed on the markets, so include commercial, industrial, and households. So within flexible, we have paper flexible packaging, plastic, and that are the main, and also aluminum flexible packaging, with it are part of the flexible type of packaging solution. And we have collected them some in 3 different streams. So plastic prevalence, so flexible packaging are collected separately within the all packaging stream, and main solution is to collect them with we call it the lightweight packaging stream, so with the metal, so even with the aluminum flexible packaging, and also rigid one, and with the steel packaging. And talking about paper flexible, so paper based flexible, they are collected within the monomaterial stream of papers in Italy, which are including also non-packaging paper and board, municipal waste. So we have a joint agreements with non-packaging sector since the beginning of the system. And so having in mind this, we see that we are very, very close to the C4C criteria, because we have endorsed all the 4 pillars of the CFlex projects. I think so we are front runner also within some of these key pillars, and can be maybe also inspire CFlex within also the development of the criteria, because we have since last year we started to have also bio waste collection of flexible within the organic recycling streams. So it's really it's a big investment to allow the collection, sorting, and recycling of flexible packaging world. They are part of the packaging quantity placed on the market. So we on our overall range of packaging put in the market, that is around 30 million tons, and plastic part refers to over than 2,200,000 tons placed in the Italian market for plastics. And the rates of flexible plastic, mainly prevalent plastics, flexible package is the 43% of such packaging placed on the market. So it's a huge quantity, and so we invest a lot to make it circular.
Thanks very much, Amanda. Can we turn now to Jens? Could I ask you basically the same question? How is flexible packaging collection and end of life working in Germany at the moment, and where do you see the biggest challenges between, or the biggest gaps between the way things work at the moment in Germany and the vision outlined in the criteria for circularity?
Yes, Tim, thanks for your question. Starting with collection, I think we have three main streams. We have the yellow bag, yellow bin, and here we are full in line with the CFlex criteria for circularity, because there's no paper in and there's no glass in. We have separate collection streams for paper and for glass. Of course, we got a separate collection for the transport packaging or for the commercial packaging. And the third part might be any flexible packaging that ends up in public spaces. And here we have a little gap, because flexible packaging that ends up in plastic spaces or in public spaces, or in the residual household waste usually gets not separated, so not recycled. With the yellow bag or yellow bin, we are in line with the criteria. So flexible package gets collected and gets sorted, and we collect each and every flexible packaging there, household packaging, fair to say. When it comes to sorting, probably like in every other market, there's a difficulty with small pieces, which usually get lost during the sorting process. And but otherwise, I would say everything that has something that is bigger than 5 by 5 centimeters has a good chance to find its way. The focus in Germany is on PE film. There are some sorting facilities who separate PP flexibles, but I think it's fair to say that flexible packaging in Germany, if it's not LDPE, has a good chance to end up in mixed plastics or in mixed polyolefins. So that might be the outcome. And for sure, some way to go.
Thank you. And finally, Rolf, could I ask the same question to you with regard to Netherlands?
Yeah, sure. Tim, I think we resemble Germany quite a lot. Maybe that's not a surprise, but let's talk about this. So we have two types of collection in the Netherlands. We have business to business, which is now commercially handled. In future also by Afvalfonds, the waste fund. And then we have business to consumer. For business to consumer, we have in fact two systems. We have the post separation system, and we have a source separation system, which is called PMD, and that includes the beverage cartons and cans also. So the PMD is then sorted into 10 different material specs, and one of them is the LDPE, which is also known as the DKR 310. And this is recycled mainly into garbage bags, but also some rigid plastic applications. Also, we have separate paper bins. We have a high level of recycling of paper too. I would always almost forget it, but I heard my Italian colleague mentioning that. So what is the difference then between the C4C and the current play in the Netherlands? I would say at the moment we don't have a mono PP flexibles recycling stream. And also not a polyolefin sorting and recycling stream. We don't have that yet. Maybe good to mention though is that we have started a chain project in which we are working towards increase the quality flexibles recycling in the Netherlands. So we started that in March. And it's a chain. It is initiated by Afvalfonds, Netvang, and KIDV, but also including big brand owners, producers, importers, sorters, recyclers, as well as CFlex members. So Graham is also involved in that. Yeah, so I think that's the update for the Netherlands at this moment. I don't have the tonnage here available. Sorry for that.
That's fine. Thank you very much. That really interesting to get those three different perspectives. Let's turn to a brand owner perspective then. And Jochen, I'd like to ask you what, as a brand owner, you would like to see from EPR schemes, and how do you think brand owners can best support this shift towards criteria for circularity?
Tim, I'm not sure whether I fully understood your question. I think that at least here the connection was not perfect, but I guess what is important at the moment is that we are in a time of pre-competitive collaboration in the industry. And what we can contribute as brand owners is basically collaborate and work together in improving the system, understanding also the needs of recycling, so engage therefore in organizations like CFlex, actively participate in the different work streams, working groups, to ensure that there is a good understanding in the industry on what is needed to happen, and basically also drive then this forward. So concretely, this means for me really the engagement, working on standardization, reducing the complexity we have today in the system, which I think is one of the hurdles and hindering recycling rates that are even higher. With the work coming from CFlex around eco-design or design for recycling, I think that is a key element. We are all waiting for to see after the first round also the more detailed rules that come up, and that we can be unite behind them. Also, that means for me a bit expectations maybe is really that the setup of the schemes should not vary too much between the different countries. So that really we are not specifically designing packaging for France and we have another concept for Italy and for other markets. I think it is key for success also to make recycling facilities inter-exchangeable between the different countries, that we reach a certain standard. And then there is one wish I personally have is really the efficiency of an EPR system is depending on the required recycling rates. If they are not too ambitious, we will not see high recycling rates. And for flexibles, this can be fatal. It's you first move to the rigid packaging, and then if you cannot fulfill the recycling rates anymore, you move into the flexibles. I think there we need a mindset change to say really we need to equally to work on what is feasible in rigid and in flexibles. And that could also mean that probably recycling rates should not be one per market. It's for plastic. It should probably be one for rigid and one for flexible to get a target that needs to be achieved. And I'm convinced that if we have something like such a target, definitely we jointly can work to that. But it also means that we help by giving probably long-term contracts. And we have some markets where it is important for investment that you can contract packaging quantities for a longer period. And this is also where I think we can support that. And it's much more easy if we are trained. And this webinar, I think, is a helpful tool also to make, show the differences we see in the different markets and the activities we need to place. But definitely for me, the value chain collaboration is key. It is key to understand that we understand the recyclers, but also that the potential recyclers also understand the needs of the manufacturers. We are using packaging to protect products, and this requires sometimes also material combinations that are hard to recycle, but still I think we need to take that into consideration. So yeah, basically, but I mean, if you all work together in CFlex and other organizations to achieve the target, it's what I'm really looking for. And of course, we need to be speedy. I think also we cannot debate for years. I think it's time to act now and implement the necessary measures and support the organization.
Thank you very much, Jochen. And so we'll finally introduce our last speaker, Joachim Quoden. So we've had a kind of view from all of our speakers of the current state of play and maybe the gaps between where we are at the moment and where we aspire to be with regard to EPR and circularity. Could you maybe give us your more high-level pan-European view of this challenge and where do you see the that gap and the need for change?
I think first we always have to remind ourselves very quickly to the past. That's important to understand today's situation, especially that in the beginning, in the 90s, in the 2000s, the producer responsibility organizations were mainly founded and were mainly existing to reach the targets in the most efficient and effective way, especially from a money point of view. And this was very important also for all our multinational friends. Always not so much or for the sustainability people who usually had a longer kind of view, but especially for the financial people. For them, that was very important. And if you see the minimum target from the European Union for many, many years, starting 30 years ago with 15%, moving then incredibly to 22.5% until 2018, you can imagine and understand that the flexible plastic packaging were not so much in the focus of the work if you try to reach the targets in the most economic way. Of course, those countries who always had higher targets than the minimum targets, they had to approach this from a different angle. And we have the examples here, the 3 countries that you invited. Also, of course, if you are a single service provider in a country, it is easier to be more long-term looking forward and to take care in the end of all kinds of packaging so that you are prepared when the targets are increasing. Nowadays, I think the focus of industry and the focus of EPR has changed, and we have to provide a solution for all packaging to make them circular so that we have enough, industry has enough packaging choices after 2030 when only reusable and recyclable packaging can be put on the market. And with the new targets, 55% in 2030, that with the new measurement point, that means that we will have to collect 80 to 90% of all packaging put on the market. So I think any discussion whether we need to collect and to recycle flexible packaging is really finally over. I know that we still have some member states and some countries which are struggling still with the basis, because if you have a weak legislation, if you have no enforcement, how can you expect that someone is doing an investment? And I think this is the biggest barrier for me. It's not so much technology. The technology is there. It will be outrolled now step by step. The existing sorting plants are replaced or modernized and so on. But to do the big investments in some countries, you need a more stable framework. Many countries even have not transposed the 2018-2019 legislation. So this is for me the biggest hurdle, because the technology is there, the willingness is there. In the end, the money is there as well. Huh? But we have to be sure that it is invested in the right way and not ending up at some sticky fingers. Huh?
Thanks very much, Joachim. So I'd like to open this up, and we've heard some of the challenges that Joachim has just discussed. Are there any other key challenges or barriers that you think we need to face in trying to meet EPR criteria for circularity at a national level? Mike, do you have any thoughts you'd like to share on that one?
Yeah, I mean, the specific challenges again might be different slightly in each country, but I think if I was trying to distill it down, I think some of the bigger challenges are around where there might be a requirement for a change in legislation. So Joachim has just mentioned that the legal framework is very, very important, which absolutely I would concur with. Some of the criteria in some countries might not be possible to meet without changes in the legislation. So, for example, I mentioned earlier that we feel it's important that the EPR schemes have at least a control of the specifications coming out of a sorting centre. So in a large European country, you don't have 80 or 100 sorting centres all making a slightly different output specification, which of course makes it difficult to invest downstream in recycling to get the right polymer. So I think that's important, but clearly it's not possible just to go in and say this should be the case. That might require a change in the legal framework. And I think the other one we have to recognise as well is changing infrastructure takes time and is not simple. So even if everyone is in agreement that the way forward might be to change this or to change that in terms of infrastructure, in terms of actually making it happen, that might take some years. So one of the things actually that CFlex is doing, recognizing that there are potential barriers, is for each country looking at where the gaps are with the criteria for circularity, but also looking what are the most important ones to move that country forward towards meeting or closing those gaps to the criteria, but also what's the ability to impact, what's CFlex ability to impact, to support, to help, to give information in terms of meeting those. So what we're trying to do in summary is really to kind of have a mix of criteria to really make some changes on the ground as quickly as possible, because the CFlex target is 2025, but also to address some of those longer term structural changes that might be required, but accepting that might take a few more years.
Thank you. Anyone else like to jump in with further challenges and barriers?
Yeah, Tim, if I can jump in, I think in this panel we are missing one key player. It's the consumer, and I think to really, if we want to make sure that the EPR systems in the different markets work effectively and efficiently, I think we need to engage with them much more than we do today to make sure that the products or packaging we put on the market has a chance to be recycled, that it is really rightly separated. I think they have a key player, and also I think there, at the moment, we don't make it really easy to communicate on pack, because if you want to give support, and we have packaging area which we could use to support the information, country by country, we would need to give different information there. Even the color code of bins is not standardized. The content of the bins is not the same. So this is, I think, where there is a huge potential, and on country level, but also supporting maybe a more broader, harmonized approach across Europe.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to comment on this?
I do not think that if we would take the investment, I don't know how many billion it would be, but even if we would adapt all the colors and the collection model to the same, I do not believe that you would see a big boost in the amount of collection, because we have so many fantastic examples where the collection is functioning and working in a proper way, and finally you will see that they use very often different collection models. It's mainly it is needed a very smart approach from the municipality, and usually it is not only about packaging. So those municipalities who are leading, they also have a proper bio waste collection. They have even already started to do some textile collection. So you have a really a common approach for all the various waste streams. You have a very good communication, local, usually together with the EPR system, supported by a federal communication. In many countries, you have now education tools in kindergarten, primary schools, secondary schools. I had the pleasure last year it was just before COVID, to give a lesson in the school of my son, and I was surprised how clever and how demanding the kids are, and in the end they were blaming us, the parents, which are too lazy to do it. So I think we really have to increase this, and I think again we know how to do it, but of course we need cooperation with the other actors. If the school is afraid of us, of industry, they don't let us in, then of course it is difficult to provide them with the right tools. And this will not help only flexible packaging. I think it will help a waste separation in general, and I think this is the most important way forward.
Thank you. And if we're going to try and achieve this, what additional impetus do we need to make it happen? So do you see a role for legislation, whether at national or EU level? Are there other stakeholders that we need to get more from to drive this further uptake and harmonization? Joachim.
Yeah. Sorry again, me. Our packaging circle, or the waste circle, is for me a little bit like a bicycle, and it is the easiest way to cycle if it is most round. So it does not matter at which stakeholder there's a problem. As soon as there's a problem, it does not work anymore. So at the moment, very often I have the feeling that we are first looking to all the other stakeholders, and we all know very best what the others could do better. But I think if we make a stop somehow and turn to ourselves and have a look, what is my responsibility? What can I do better? Just a week of thinking, and then we go back and discuss it and do it. I think that would be an incredible way for forward. And again, we have the tool in the European Waste Framework Directive, Article 8A. You have the obligation for each member state to organize an EPR dialogue platform. The European Commission has the obligation to organize such a platform as well. Now, from these 28 existing platforms that should exist already, how many are up and running? Zero. So that is for me a little bit the problem. Everyone is looking to industry. How could industry put all these very strange packaging on the market? By the way, 5 to 10 years ago, food waste was the focus, and we were all pushed to provide solutions to reduce the food waste, whatever the price was. Now we are surprised that there was a price to pay. But our memory is unfortunately always very short.
Thank you. So let's go back to thinking about some of the more country-specific and the more granular challenges that we face. And Jens, I'd like to turn to you. I know that in Germany there are multiple PROs. Does that generate additional challenges that that CFlex would face in realizing the criteria for circularity?
Probably yes. I mean, we had 10 to 11 competing schemes, and probably fair to say competition mostly is driven by providing the lowest pricing, the lowest cost for compliance. So our clients are the producers, brand owners, retailers, and they ask for the lowest price, given that legal insurance is there. It's not about providing the highest recycling quotas. So in the first place, in Germany, we have a common collection infrastructure. So between the PROs, we have to align how that collection structure should be run. But as I said earlier, no worries from flexible packaging, because flexible packaging is collected, and I don't see any ways that it will be kicked out. So we are fine with the collection. Differently with sorting, because here the competition actually starts between the PROs. It's about sorting and then recovery or recycling. And so maybe each of the competing pros may have a different approach on whether sorting for flexible PP, sorting for mixed plastics, or a polyolefin mix. So here's the difference. And here probably it's a little bit more complicated than talking to a single service provider in one market. Here, CFlex and the whole initiative probably needs to talk to all of the pros and to see how we could improve flexible packaging recycling, how we could improve really the recycling quota for flexible packaging.
Thanks, Jens. And so collection and recycling of flexibles has been happening in Italy and Germany for years, and Amanda mentioned that how far back it goes, and that certainly shames someone like me from the UK who's still waiting for this to happen. Could I ask the two of you your views on what are the current developments and areas of focus around flexibles in your countries at the moment, for instance, around collection, sorting, and recycling? You're already at this more advanced stage than the rest of us. What does the future hold? Can we go to Amanda first?
Thank you, James. Yes, exactly. And I will say one of the main focus is what exactly Johan from Nestle mentioned is what kind of tool can be used to enable citizens to strengthen what they do to sort at source. And labeling is one of the key elements for that. But we, as mentioned you also, Joachim, we see that for as soon we have different fraction collected in the different bins out of the color of the bins, the main solution, because we are working a lot with school, so we're younger and invest a lot with them into awareness on separate collection, the main tool that works for all is the digital solution. So we are investing and promoting to have include information on all digital solution using a QR code or EN code, whatever is functioning within this IT system, because it works very well in combination with infrastructures. So if we think only on the, for example, pay-as-you-throw system, they work with IT solution, and so they can read the packaging directly from their IT labeling. So, and this will help not only collection, but after also where there are technology like digital watermarks that can also read the package into the sorting stream. So after the sorting at source, this is a full technology solution that is with just one reference or one code. You can follow the full stream of the packaging placed in the market. So this is one of the key focus. Then awareness to consumer. We when we start to invest into the bio waste, so in the recycled organics, we explain with national campaign, the difference and the impact to sort at source shoppers, so carrier bags made from traditional plastic and sorted separately from compostable plastics carrier bags. And then thanks to this awareness and to this campaign, leaflet, a lot of meeting events at local level, now we have reduced the quantity of the wrong delivery of carrier bags into the plastic lightweight packaging collection, and has been diverted to the bio waste collection. So we achieved two targets. One was to increase the purity of the plastic waste streams collection, and the second one to give the option to enter into the recycling streams, so organic stream of the compostable bio flexible packaging. So this was another focus, and we have been able to do that because we set up last year for the first, I think we are the first PRO system having bio waste PRO, so a dedicated PRO for compostable bio flexible packaging. So that's and another tool, I guess it was Mike mentioned it, is the field modulation. So we have introduced field modulation since 2008, which means that we have fixed our definition of recyclability, and so collection and sorting and recycling of the packaging according to an industrial scale criteria and net cost. So the net cost of the recyclability, viability, economic viability. So that's mean that now we can allocate the cost exactly or more or less per aggregated type of packaging. So it's the packaging that have the same level of recyclability in real recyclability. So in practice, they are paying the same fee level. So that is a way to give a signal, and so it's really a levy for design for recycling. That is also supported by several tools for CONAI. We have Eco Tool, so life cycle assessment, and Eco Tool, Eco Design to support industry how to design better their packaging. And for example, the technical specification that mentioned Jans, for example, we have to consider the space, so the surface area of the packaging, because small packaging have difficulty to be captured by the current technology, and our colors, presence of a compatible type of polymers, because the output of the sorting technology are defining the criteria of the input of the recycling process. So any application that will uptake the sorted and recycled flexible package has been are affecting how we have to sort the plastic packaging. So that's why we invest a lot to have a technical specification, also for a dedicated stream for flexible packaging in the plastic sector, for example, for flexible packaging. And currently we have three types of specification, and three different specification for polyolefin and plasmics packaging. But this is of course in an improving way. And for paper, we refers to the standard EN 643, which is the standard for paper, to define the technical specification of such package. So film modulation is adopted not only for plastic but also for paper packaging with the same rules and approach.
Thanks very much, Amanda.
Thank you.
And Jens, could you talk us through any current developments or areas of focus that you're working on or seeing?
Well, film modulation is a hot topic in Germany, as it is probably sooner or later all over Europe. And yes, and I agree with Amanda. In terms of flexible packaging, I think we have to address compound material. And unfortunately, we observe that more and more brand owners, producers try to follow this plastic bashing trends and substitute recyclable plastic packaging by fiber-based packaging and fiber-based compounds that still come with a certain amount of plastic. So I think we have a rising challenge here. And I guess well understood that even within flexible packaging, we have hard to recycle or even not to be recycled compound material when there's PET mixed with polyolefins. We all know it's good for packaging functional, for production, for barriers and so on. But my message here clearly is if you use flexible plastic packaging, please stay to one polymer.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And is there anything, Amanda and Jens and Rolf as well, that countries that are maybe behind the curve in terms of collection and sorting that can learn from the experiences of your countries? Any advice that you would give, or maybe even mistakes that we could learn from?
I would, if I may go first, would have one clear message, and it's taken for in the C4C criteria. I spent a lot of time also in Canada and the US, where you have single stream collection. So there's a clear message: avoid single stream collection. Keep paper and flexible plastic packaging source separated. Otherwise, you lose quality and you have to spend so much money. No one is doing it. So keep it separated.
Amanda, anything that you would add to that?
Yes, we fully, I can say I fully share the point of Jens. So that's why we start since the beginning to have separately streams paper from one side, and I think that the main suggestion we can pass, having in mind our experience, if some can't have to approach to separate collection or to improvement, is to work strictly with local authorities, because they are the direct contact with consumer. They are, especially for Italy, which we comes after the separate collection. So we are in charge to take back the already separated material and pass this to the sorting facility, and then works with them to define the specification according to the end market application. But local authorities, they are the key points for consumer. So we have the chance to address them in terms of quantity and quality, because our financial support and cost coverage to what they are doing is based on the quality of the material. So that's why important to address local how they have to do the separate collection to earn much more money from the recycling end market, and so to use our business approach and to pass this business approach to local authority as well. In this way, they have also good reference and good specification also to address their citizen. And if citizens have clear idea how to have to sort, they the local authority have the right tool to collect the packaging in the right way.
Thanks very much. Rolf, is there anything that you would like to add in terms of advice for improving our EPR systems?
Well, no, it's probably more confirming. So we also see the same trend as Jens is seeing in Germany, that producers are looking for alternatives for plastic packaging because of the plastic soup, etc. Let's say the public opinion is against plastic, so all kinds of paper is now being developed, paper with barrier, paper with coating, etc. So I think that the institutes for testing recyclability of paper packaging are very busy at this moment. And the other thing is that, avoiding single streams, as Jens was also stipulating, yes, if possible. On the other hand, it will be very difficult in the rural areas where you don't have the space for all the different bins. So that's also a watch out there. And I would say, okay, the sorting and recycling processes are getting better. So you can also see sometimes a move in the Netherlands from, let's say, from post separation to, I mean the other way around, from PMD to post separation. You can see that also now and then, and they do. There are studies that stipulate that there is still enough quality from that, and the municipalities, they take the decision to move to the other system. So that's also something that we are observing here.
Thank you. So I'd like to open up a question to all of our panelists. So CFlex has a demand-driven circular economy model, and I'd like to hear your views on whether there are any actions you'd like to see taken at a national level to ensure that recycled polymer quantities and quality are aligned with the demands that the market requires. Mike, do you have any thoughts you'd like to start with that one?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say I think we're in very exciting times in terms of the potential and the abilities to do stuff in this area. I mean, if we go back into the 90s, I mean, the films were collected together and people were trying to work out what might be done with them. And we're in a situation now where there have been huge advances, in sorting technologies, first of all. At the same time, we've now got very clear design for recycling guidance, such as the CFlex design for recycling guidance. At the same time, we've got very big advances in mechanical recycling, as well as the other emerging types of recycling, chemical recycling, etc., where there are all sorts of opportunities opening up in terms of the qualities that can be produced and in terms of what can be done with the in-stream material. In fact, again, this is an area where CFlex have done work, the quality recycling process, looking at mechanical recycling in terms of how you best sort and how you can recycle and all of the new technologies that are available in recycling. So I think there's a lot going on in this space at the moment. And of course, it's not easy for industry just to suddenly switch to these new technologies. It needs planning. And as I said earlier, it needs time. But I think we need to join these pieces up together, and if we do that successfully, we're in a position where we should be able to produce outputs of recycled polymer that are usable in a wide range of downstream applications. And again, that's one of the objectives of the criteria for circularity, is to produce that sort of polymer that could be used in a wide range of applications as a commodity replacement to virgin polymer, as we say in the criteria. And I think that's really, really important, because we're moving from a situation where the focus was just about collecting more, because we were collecting so little, to a situation where we now also really need to focus on downstream demand. In particular, if we want to meet the kind of policy objectives of a European level of keeping that resource within Europe, we need to really look at linking together that supply and the demand. And I think all of these new developments and technologies supported by the design for recycling guidelines can help there.
Thanks, Mike. Does anyone have anything they would like to add on that question of action at a national level that can be slightly more driving the demands that we have for recyclers?
Yeah, well, what would be helpful here is that there are consistent specifications that comply with the recycler demand. Sorters, they deliver according to that spec. And I think also we need reliability in quality and quantity. So, and in that case, maybe I talk about a national level. That would be the first thing here to focus on, and then probably later on also on the European level.
Tim, one thought maybe coming from the food industry, where we have really difficult or limitations in taking up recycled materials ourselves. I think it's really important for us if we design packaging to understand the potential clients. And I think it's one of the gaps we're facing today, that we do not understand really who would be the uptaker of a material. Is it in Germany, is it the car industry? Is it, I don't know, the building industry? What would be their requirement? And actually question on whether you should have a polypropylene-based or polyethylene-based flexible could give us direction in the way we design. So at the moment, we design to very generic rules. Here, I think if we're talking about something country-specific, I think we need to understand really the potential clients the recyclers have to uptake the material, which is basically then driving demand. But for closed loop applications, for us, unfortunately, for most of the flexibles applications, it is very tricky if we stick to mechanical recycling.
Thank you. And that actually raises a question that I'd like to close on. As I guess many in the audience will know, chemical recycling is a hot topic, and CFlex itself sees chemical recycling as part of the mix alongside mechanical to achieving circularity in flexible packaging. I'd be interested in everyone's views on this, but specifically thinking again at the national level, what's the current status in Germany, Italy, and Netherlands in terms of the legislative recognition of chemical recycling and also the development of facilities? What kind of role do you envisage chemical recycling playing in your countries? Let's go to Jens first in Germany.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope the noise is okay because someone's shutting the blinds. Sorry. Well, yes, I think with chemical recycling, there's a lot of hope, not yet certainty, maybe. But state of play in Germany is that as of today, even if we would see chemical recycling in an industry scale, we would not be allowed to count those masses for fulfilling recycling quotas. But there is a strong mind change I see. Like 2-3 years back, even there was a study and a statement from the Umweltbundesamt, from the Environmental Protection Agency, so to say, where they took a clear position against chemical recycling. But we know this has changed over the last 2-3 years. So they are more and more open. What I said is still we need certainty that it will function in an industrial scale and that it will provide an ecological and economical business case. And then picking up on your words, Tim, it should become part of the mix. It probably is not foreseen to replace mechanical recycling, but it's a good addition for all those, especially plastics, that are not open for the existing techniques in terms of mechanical recycling. So we need to wait, and probably there will be some support from the EU level coming with the next packaging waste directive. And yeah, maybe it might take some more years to have our German legislation opened to have chemical recycling being allowed in terms of fulfilling recycling quota.
Thank you. So Amanda and Rolf, I guess there's no need to repeat ourselves if you totally agree and the situation looks the same, but are there any contrasts from that view that Jens has shared that you see from your Italian and Dutch perspectives.
So ladies first, I guess.
Thank you, Rolf. I would like to connect this with what Jochen from Nestle told before, that as a PR, what we can do for have a chemical recycling as a part of the solution is to have close collaboration and partnership into research and development project. So that is what we currently have. We have more than one project that is supported by our PRO for plastics, Corepla. They have a project with Nestle as well on that, and Ecoplast team to try to recycle flexible packaging made of plastics and aluminium. And we so what we can do is to try to support then the industry to make as a bridge of the who is placing packaging on the market and who has to sorting and recycling, and support the study and the research on how this can be done. So we are also have partnership with university to study and make available such technology. So there are two currently two planned project plan, pilot plan in Italy for chemical recycling, one in Mantova and one in Ferrara, and they are working to make so flexible packaging recycling via depolymerization. This is the technology. So have again monomers and to count what at least is going to be filling the production of new products be counted to achieve the recycling targets of plastic packaging placed on the market.
Thank you. And Rolf, would you like to build on
Yeah.
that?
If I still have time, I probably have to keep it short here. So the Dutch government is actively supporting sustainability initiative to reduce the CO2 carbon footprint. Chemical recycling is one of those initiatives. So in Q4 this year, Sabic and Plastic Energy, they are opening their operations in Geleen. That's a chemical recycling plant. It's a pyrolysis plant for 20 till 30 kiloton. And Afvalfonds will cooperate with the pilot project there, and they provide feedstock for that plant. So I think this is a main breakthrough here, because the Dutch PRO is actively providing material for the chemical recycling. So you can see here the bridge that has been formed. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Rolf. Well, as you alluded to, we are out of time. I'm sorry we haven't got time to directly address any audience questions. I've seen them coming in, and I'm pleased to say that quite a few of the things that I saw were kind of indirectly addressed in the course of our discussion, and I hope you found that useful. So just a couple of quick reminders before we leave you. First of all, the Sustainable Packaging Summit regular series of virtual panels is continuing. We have about 2 every month. For more details and access to them, please sign up on the Packaging Europe website. Not all of them will be available on LinkedIn, so please go there and check it out. We also have a face-to-face event coming up, the Sustainable Packaging Summit on the 13th and 14th of September in Lisbon. You're warmly invited to come if this is relevant to you. It's really a summit and not a conference. We're bringing together leaders of the industry and thought leaders and leaders in action to frankly and constructively discuss the sustainability challenges we face and how we can align around better strategies. Once again, you can find details of that on the Packaging Europe website. For now, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks also to CFlex for collaborating on this panel. And above all, thanks to our 6 speakers, Jochen Hertlein, Mike Jefferson, Joachim Kroden, Amanda Fuso-Nerini, Jens Niesmann, and Rolf van Sprang. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
True. True.
Bye bye.